Hi. Hi, Booktube. This is Kim at K. Becker's Books. And today this is a nonfiction book haul. So let's get started. First of all, one thing I wanted to address, because coincidentally, the first two books I have to do with plagues. So the first two books I have to do with plague. And I bought these probably a couple of weeks ago. So it's purely coincidental that it happens to correspond to what's happening globally in our society right now. I'm talking about COVID-19 or the coronavirus. I live in New Hampshire, and in my town, our schools, as of yesterday, have been closed for 2 weeks. And we will be getting remote learning for my daughter, probably on Monday afternoon. That means there's a lot of personal inconvenience, but understandably, our schools and our local libraries and any other large venues or programs are postponed for 2 weeks at least. So I understand why. It's going to be interesting to see how that affects people who don't have internet access at home and children who rely on school meals to get through the day. I know that the school districts are coming up with plans to address that and to continue to support those kids. So I'm anxious to see how that goes. I happen to be pretty fortunate in that I can work from home much of the time. I will probably have to pop into work here and there to be physically in the building for some tasks that I normally do. But I am one of the lucky ones that I don't always have to be in my building. There are so many people that I understand are going to be burdened with anxiety and what to do about their jobs and their work and their pay. So hopefully any governmental aid that comes down or that is arranged will help anybody that needs to get financial support during this time. So that all said, let me show you what the books are. And like I said, the first two books are coincidentally about plague. And I just simply picked them up because I was interested in learning. The first one is called The American Plague by Molly Caldwell Crosby. It's the untold story of yellow fever, the epidemic that shaped our history. And this book was published in 2006. Here's the cover. This is the story of yellow fever. And this happened it says in 1648, a lone slave ship with infected mosquitoes brought a new virus to the New World. It also has on the back of the book a description of what yellow fever does to a person, and I didn't want to read that because it is a little gruesome and gory. But it fascinates me back in history when we didn't realize what caused the spread of disease, and when we didn't realize how insidious mosquitoes are and how powerful these little tiny bugs are when it comes to spreading disease. So this one is really interesting to me, and looking forward to learning more about that. The next one is Pale Rider by Laura Spinney, and this is about the Spanish flu of 1918 and how it changed the world. This book was published in 2017. It's a pretty new book. I think there's been a lot of press on the Spanish flu and how it possibly compares and contrasts to what we're dealing with now around the world. However, again, this is at a time in history where we were far less aware of how diseases spread, what to do to prevent it, what to do to treat it and to cure it. And so, really fascinating topic. I think I've seen this in several places on Booktube and got my hands on a copy. So those are the only two that have anything to do with spreadable viruses or plagues. That's the end. The next one is, back up. For many years I worked in financial services, so I still have some interest in learning about finance and economics. And this book is A History of the United States in 5 Crashes, Stock Market Meltdowns That Defined a Nation, by Scott Nations, is his last name. And this book was published in 2017. And it details 5 different stock market crashes: the Panic of 1907, Black Tuesday 1929, Black Monday 1987, the Great Recession of 2008, and the Flash Crash of 2010. This Scott used to be a trader, and so he has firsthand experience in financial markets and economics, and sounded really good. The next 2 books are about a group of people in general, or specific books about a group of people. The first one is The Vikings by Elsie Roesdahl, and this was published first in 1987. And we assume that the Vikings were barbaric, heathen people who, rape and pillage and consume any other society and destroy things. But this book details their actual complexity and their social institutions, including how they oversaw the coming of Christianity to Scandinavia. They made a major impact on European history through trade, travel, and far-flung settlement and colonization. It talks about Viking art, burial customs, fortresses, jewelry, family life, kingship, religious conversions. I don't know about you, but this is one of those periods in history that sound really good to me, and I don't know very much about. I don't know if it's because it's not my part of the world. And quite honestly, that's not really an excuse, because we're a global society, so it would behoove me to learn more about other countries, other time periods, other times in history. Again, looks really good. And if I say it looks really good for every book, sorry, it's true. But it's the little things, people, and these books just bring me so much happiness and so much potential, especially nonfiction, so much potential for learning something new and getting deeper into a subject that I've always been interested in. The next one makes me giddy, and not in a twisted, weird sort of way. But this book is The Witches by Stacy Schiff, Suspicion, Betrayal, and Hysteria in 1692 Salem. I love learning about the Salem witch trials in the 1600s and Salem, Massachusetts. I live about an hour and 20 minutes away from Salem, Massachusetts. And the last time I was there was 16 years ago, maybe. I accompanied my older daughter on a field trip with her middle school class. And quite honestly, the kids were animals. They were barbarians. It was the last time I went on a field trip with kids that age. I was totally disgusted. But I love this period in history and learning more about this. The panic began in 1692 over a raw Massachusetts winter when a minister's niece began to writhe and roar. It spread quickly as neighbors accused neighbors, husbands accused wives, parents and children one another. It ended less than a year later, but not before 19 men and women were hanged. I read an article not too long ago that there was a group of people that were in Salem, Massachusetts, and I think there's a convenience store, it might be a 7-Eleven or something like that, right behind that property where the 7-Eleven is, was the hill, the Hanging Hill. And this group of historians, or Salem historians, historians of this time that had interest in the Salem witch trials, went to look for that area on the property, and they could see the back of the convenience store from that point. But when I went on the field trip, I was most interested in the mock witch trials, looking and touring through the actual dungeons that accused people were locked up in, learning the history about how people were accused and by who, what happened to them. And again, it wasn't very many people that were hanged or accused of being a witch, but it was enough to provoke a major black mark on history, and just caused us to have this in our past, especially New Englanders and people that originate from this part of the country. Such a fascinating topic. And Stacy Schiff is also the author of Cleopatra, a biography that I have in my other room, which I also plan on reading. And from what I hear, there were several other booktubers who read Cleopatra and absolutely loved it. And so I'm really looking forward to reading Stacy Schiff's writing. The next one is called Strapless by Deborah Davis. And this is John Singer Sargent and the Fall of Madam X. This is a famous painting of Sargent's, probably his most famous painting, according to the book. And it's the story of Madam X, who is the woman depicted in the painting. She was French, and this was, I think the painting was, let's see, it was not advertised, but the painting was originally exposed in the 1850s, I think. And it created a scandal because the woman, Madam X, in the painting, he painted her with a very bare shoulder line, bare chest line, and one of the straps of her dress was hanging off of her shoulder. And that created a scandal in French society, and it gave her a black mark. She was ruined because of it. So super interesting to read about the background. I love reading nonfiction about art in general, so this one, really looking forward to that one. The next one is The Real Lolita by Sarah Weinman. This is the story, as it suggests, of the kidnapping of Sally Horner in 1948. And she was the inspiration, I guess you could call it in a weird, creepy way, for Vladimir Nabokov's Lolita. And that's why the book is called The Real Lolita. Sally Horner was 11 years old when she was kidnapped. I believe she was brought across country. And this was the story in the news at the time that inspired Nabokov to write Lolita. That's creepy to me. And he actually had to kind of defend himself in writing that book because he didn't want it to go back that he was far too interested or intrigued in the story of Sally Horner. Yeah, I've never read Lolita. I've been tempted so many times to pick it up, but something's always stopped me. So we'll see. This one is Helen Rappaport's The Romanov Sisters. Romanov? I'm not sure which is the proper way to pronounce it. This is the story of these four princess sisters who were the Dianas of their day. And it's the story of the lost lives of the daughters of Nicholas and Alexandra. They were, let's see, the four captivating Russian Grand Duchesses: Olga, Tatiana, Maria, and Anastasia. It describes their life and obviously their deaths. And I have read very little about the Romanovs and Russian history. Looking forward to that one. This one is, I'm not going to describe this very much because it's an older book. It's been everywhere. It's a Pulitzer Prize winner. It was published I'm going to get it. It was published in 1994. This is No Ordinary Time by Doris Kearns Goodwin. I found this in Goodwill, I think, for $2 and completely snatched it up. It's in perfect condition. This is the story of Franklin and Eleanor Roosevelt, the home front in World War II. I love, I'm going to say it, I love picking up books written by women that are Pulitzer Prize winners or well-known historians. I just love it. I'm gonna support women authors in that respect every time. Now, the next pile, I have 4 more books. I'm going to try not to make this video too long, but these 4 books, in my opinion, apply to a hashtag going out on Booktube called Smash the Patriarchy. And this, I saw a video just the other day by Amy Myers, who I will link below, and she has a video on hashtag Smash the Patriarchy. I don't really need to explain what that is. Amy Myers is a young-ish booktuber who I really enjoy, and she and another booktuber, I think it's Melted Pages or Melted Books, I will link her video as well down below to get her her name right. But they introduced this new hashtag for feminist literature. And these next 4 books, I hope, apply. This one is Angela P. Dodson's Remember the Ladies, and it is celebrating those who fought for freedom at the ballot box. This is clearly a story of women who fought for the right to vote. And what I love about this is it goes from the 1800s and the birth of suffragettes and feminism and fighting for political rights to 2016 and the campaign and the experience of Hillary Clinton losing to our current president. It's got pictures of women in history. Here's a picture of Hillary Clinton in 2016. It's got just historical pictures. I love this, and I can't wait to read more about that. And another one that possibly applies is It's Up to the Women by Eleanor Roosevelt. Introduction by Jill Lepore, whose book, I think her book is called These Truths. I haven't picked up yet, but am dying to. This is Eleanor Roosevelt never wanted her husband to run for president. When he won, she went on a national tour to crusade on behalf of women. She wrote a regular newspaper column. She became a champion of women's rights and of civil rights, and she decided to write a book. And this is Eleanor Roosevelt's book, It's Up to the Women, and she addresses women and our experiences, what she thought we could do, we had the opportunity to do. I don't know much about Eleanor Roosevelt, very little. Sounds like a great book. And the next one is called Visionary Women by Andrea Barnet. This details 4 different women, and it is, Rachel Carson warned us about poisoning the environment. Jane Jacobs fought for livable cities and strong communities. Jane Goodall demonstrated the indelible kinship between humans and animals. And Alice Waters urged us to reconsider what and how we eat. These are 4 women that influenced and were deeply involved in the earth and nature, food, and acquisition of what we eat and how we process it. This looks so good. And anything that has women that have done things like this in these topics, I'm going to pick it up. And this looks like something, I don't know if it's got pictures. It does have pictures. It's got oh gosh, I love this. It's got all kinds of pictures, and I love when the pictures are there and they can detail the text in the book. Look at this one with the chimpanzee. So, Visionary Women by Andrea Barnet. The last book I have, I found on Book Outlet, and I couldn't believe it because I was dying to buy this. I had it in my cart online, and I found it on Book Outlet at a much better price. I'm going to add this to my Smash the Patriarchy pile because I do believe it applies. And this is called No Visible Bruises by Rachel Louise Snyder. What we don't know about domestic violence can kill us. This is such an important book, not just for those who have survived domestic violence, not just for those who have experienced it in some way, whether firsthand or secondhand through a family member or a friend, but it's so important for us to understand some of the signs, some of the women's experiences. For those of us who have never experienced domestic violence or abuse, sometimes it's so stereotypically easy to say, well, why didn't she just leave? Or why didn't she just call the police? Or why didn't she press charges? Why did she stay with him for so long? That's what I hope to read in this book, are reasons and examples to help me learn more of women who have had to survive these types of experiences and what that burden means for women and their families, and especially women and their children. No Visible Bruises can honestly apply to partners who end up strangling women, wives and girlfriends or friends. Quite often domestic abusers use that type of abuse to not leave signs, to not leave bruises, the things that police and first responders can notice. And unfortunately, I wish I had looked for a statistic, but if you've been strangled, or if a partner has attempted to choke you or strangle you, it's much more likely that he will in the future do it again, and possibly it would prove fatal. So I really hope to learn and to have much more empathy. I think I already do, but I can never know everything and I can never understand everything. So I really look forward to learning more about this and having a lot more exposure to the realities. Those are all my nonfiction selections. The piles, oh gosh, I'm giddy with excitement over some of these topics and learning and reading more. I'm really looking forward to adding more nonfiction to my general reading, and also looking forward to Nonfiction November. I know it's several months away, but I haven't really taken part in that yet, and I've got plenty of choices in order to do that. Thanks for coming along with me. Let me know if you've read any of these books. Let me know what you thought, good or bad. Give me a comment down below, and I'll talk to you about that. And I would love to hear your opinions, and love to hear if there's one that you think I should pick up first or pick up soonest. Subscribe below if you haven't done that already, and thank you so much for watching. I will talk to you soon. Bye.